place, it's highly likely that they would establish the reception departure centre. Does everyone agree on that? Yeah. And you'll see that for this exercise. You'll see the national coordination mechanism step up, and you will actually have the national Pakistan classified team that start to establish the reception departure centres. Of course you can. Correct. So I'm not sure if everyone heard that question, but it was around capacity of the local airport, the local port to take those teams in. And can you set up an independent? Of course you can, but then you need the infrastructure. So you may decide that all incoming teams are not flying into the commercial airport, they're coming into the military airport, so that you can take pressure off humanitarian aid that's coming in to deliver supplies, and all of your USAR or your emergency medical teams are coming into a military airport. So it's the initial coordination entity that's established in the affected country, and it assists entry point operations. And it's also about getting teams out into the field so they can carry out life-saving opportunities. So there's 10 roles that really are important for an RDC. And we're going to go through this really briefly. Basically, you've got to get permission first. If Australia's coming into Pakistan, we need your permission to set up a reception departure centre. So that would be our first critical point of view. We're going to try and facilitate the customs, immigration and quarantine process. So we all heard Winston this morning, and he spoke about General Assembly Resolution 57-150. So that's about the effectiveness of USAR teams and trying to streamline the process of getting teams in. And then we heard from your person in Border and Customs, and he spoke about all of these things that they can put in place to ensure the USAR teams come in quickly. So fantastic for Pakistan, you've already got these things in place, you're already thinking about them. We need to post updates on the virtual OSOC, and you'll get some more information around what the virtual OSOC is for those that don't know. But it's basically the platform where all the information will go out to the international community. We need to start a register of arriving teams that are coming in. We need to brief them. We need to give them some updates on what's happening. A lot of these teams, they may have been on an airplane for the last 10 hours, so they don't know what's happened between when they took off from their country to when they arrived. So we need to give them an update on that. And you'll get to see during this exercise, there will be wall charts with those functional areas put up that will have information that the teams can then understand. We need to share logistical information. We need to update one of the other coordination sections that we'll talk about. And basically be that conduit between the host government, the local emergency management agency, and the incoming teams coming in. So, the first arriving team comes in. That priority to meet with the airport manager or the airport operations manager is really important, because there's a whole lot of questions they need to know so that they can let the other teams know that coming in what's important. So how long's the runway? What type of aircraft can they land? Are there aprons that they can leave aircraft, or aircraft have to land, unload and then take off straight away? What about unloading capability of the aircraft? So all these questions come up. And in Sarah, to make this a we all know the type of information we want have come up. So have come up with this form. And this form's available on the Inspire website. It's free, so we can all look at it. And it prompts what we need to ask from the airport manager so that we can provide that information to the rest of the team. So that was really brief, reception departure centre, but hopefully that gave you a little bit of a clue to what it does. So basically it's just a point where teams coming in, the first initial coordination point. If we get the reception departure centre wrong, we can actually jeopardise the whole mission. So it's really important that it's set up correctly. And there's a couple of little tips we can do to make sure it works. Flag that flag as teams, classified teams that are coming in. It's like a magnet. So we go there because we know that's where we're going to get some information. So that's really important. We've gone to an electronic way of tracking what the work is when we're in country. So the intra-coordination management system. Zohan will talk about that. But what that does is keep an electronic copy. The thing we need to remember is the default is still paper copy. We're in a disaster zone, and at any time we may lose cellular, we may lose satellite coverage. So if you're in these sections, just make sure to keep a paper copy of everything as well as the electronic version. And the last one, we come into a reception departure centre. It's day one of the incident. Day one. It's only just happened, but we need to already be thinking about how we're going to hand over this in 10 days' time when our team needs to go back to its home country because we've run out of food, we've run out of water, and that's the length of our stay. So try to capture anything that you think is pertinent that then you can provide to the local emergency management agency or possibly the United Nations Disaster Assessment and Coordination team that may take over the reception departure centre. And it's the reverse when the teams are leaving as well. That's why it's got reception and departure. I'm sorry that was so quick, but does anyone have any questions around reception departure centres? All clear? You're fantastic team. Okay, so we'll move on to the USAR coordination cells. So again, the whole purpose of a USAR coordination cell is to work within the national coordination mechanism. We're there to support that. We're there to make sure that the international teams work with the national teams to perform life-saving operations. And it's again to take the pressure off the local emergency management agency. So that permission becomes a really important thing. It also provides the local emergency management agency, so if it happens in Pakistan, it provides the Pakistani government or Pakistani emergency department one point of contact that they can come to get all the information from the international teams of what's occurring. So session outcomes, we'll just skip, we'll keep moving. So around the methodology, so a USAR coordination cell is set up by and for international USAR teams, which efficiently links to the national USAR coordination system. So it expedites the efforts of the national system to utilise international USAR teams. So like I said, it's that coordination mechanism. It sits within the framework. I'm not sure if anyone's aware of there is a USAR coordination handbook. Has anyone seen that? No? Okay. So the USAR coordination handbook has lots of information around the setup of the reception departure centre, the USAR coordination cell, and a sector coordination cell. That's got all of these guidance. I spoke about Interarc having these checklists to help people have those conversations. This has some really good ones in there as well. So I'd encourage everyone, it doesn't matter if it's classified, non-classified, as Winston said, we're all one family, we're all in the business of saving lives, but it's just got some really good information and I'm sure we can share this with everyone and we can put that link in there so that you can see that information. So responsibilities of the USAR coordination cell. One of the first things we do as an international team coming into country is express our condolences, solidarity to what's occurred. The person we may be talking to, the local emergency management, if we're saying this has occurred in Pakistan, they may have just lost their home, they may have lost loved ones, they may have lost friends in the earthquake. So it's really important that we build that relationship from the very start, and that's genuine because we're all part of this life-saving community. Look, we're so sorry for what's happened. Please know that you have a peace with you for what's occurred, and that helps to build that relationship. So the highest priority is to meet with that local emergency management so we can actually say, we're here, we can take the pressure off you. Do we have your permission to open a USAR coordination cell and control all of the USAR teams or coordinate all of the USAR teams that are arriving? So that's a really important function that we do. And then we want to understand what the priorities are of the country. So their priorities may be an area that we don't know about yet. They want us to go to a particular area where they know there's been a lot of impacted buildings, they know that there's been a lot of casualties, so we need to understand that from the local teams, and that's why this system works really well. Because you're able to say to us, this is where we want you to work. And we're guests, so we will make sure that that goes to every team. So in this room, China's arrived, Australia's running the UCC, we'll speak to China and we'll actually say the Lima priorities are to do A, B and C. And China will know that and they'll go and do that. It's the same with the Indonesian team. They will know that they need to go and do those tasks. So we showed the form for the Reception Departure Centre. Same form for the USAR coordination itself. Gives really good advice on the type of information we need. So not only helps the host government, but helps us understand. So some of the things that will be really important to the international teams and extremely important for the national teams, or for the host government, is how do we handle deceased people? Is there a plan in place? When we went to Turkey, it was, and I know there's people in this room that went to Turkey, the instruction was how we handled it, we removed them and then we hand them over to the local emergency management. But it may be we leave them in situ. So those bits of information which are really vital to how we carry out our operations will be spoken about during those meetings. Now, some of the learnings. So we've got a reception departure centre. One of the key things we need to do is feed back information into that. So it's this holistic coordination mechanisms or frameworks, much like you've already got in every country that's assembled here. There's a dissemination of information, and we need to remember that the USAR coordination cell still supplies that information back into those angles. Okay. If we're the host government, how important is it that we want information on what's occurring? Pretty important? Very much. Okay. So what the USAR coordination cell will do is when all of the international teams come in and we start assigning them to a work site, the Nishat hotels collapsed, we've assigned the Indonesian team to start working there. But we want to know how their rescue efforts are going, if they're having any problems. So we'll set up a reporting cycle, and that might be 6, 8, 12, 24 hours, or it might be as the local emergency management dictates, because we're going to want to meet with the Lima at least daily, or have someone from the Lima embedded into that coordination cell. So when we assign that work, the Indonesian team know that in 6 hours' time they need to report to whoever's in the USAR coordination cell. We've rescued 2 casualties, we've come across some issues with stray dogs, we've got some further building collapse, or we've recognised there's a humanitarian need somewhere. So that information gets fed back into the USAR coordination cell so that we can then talk to the local emergency management agency about how we're going to manage that. Functional requirements, pretty easy, we need a space, don't we? So your classified team will have the ability to set up a tent and ICT, so any IT equipment as well as telecommunications in a remote location that's of the choosing.